Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called US Tourism in 2025, what the full year finally revealed. Well, I don't know if it's going to be good things that are going to be revealed or bad things, but I guess we're going to find out. So let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
All year, there's been a debate about what's really happening to international travel in the United States.
Yeah.
Was 2025 just a slow recovery year? A temporary pullback that would fix itself?
Hopefully.
With nearly a full year of data, that explanation no longer holds. Because globally, travel didn't slow.
Which is in the US.
Grew. And that contrast matters. Numbers through November tell a consistent story. Not driven by one country, one season, or one headline, but by multiple regions moving in the same direction for very different reasons. Some travelers pulled back quietly. Others never returned the way forecasts expected. And in places where arrivals stabilized, spending dropped instead.
Oh.
What the numbers show isn't a short-term dip or a delayed recovery. It's a shift in how international travelers are choosing the United States. And that shift is now impossible to ignore. In this video, we look at how international travel to the US changed, and why that pattern matters more than the headlines. Let's start with Canada, the largest source of international tourism to the United States.
Oh, it's Canada?
And the
Really?
earliest sign of a broader shift.
Okay.
About a quarter of all overseas visits to the US come from Canada.
That's insane to me.
But that changed at the start of 2025. In January
because
and
of the new
February,
policies?
Canadian travel into the US fell by double digits. Both land crossings and air travel declined at the same time, an unusual pattern outside of major global disruptions.
Yeah.
At the time, many assumed it would correct itself. It didn't. Canadian travel stayed lower month after month with no seasonal rebound. And instead of recovering during the summer, the
Wondering where they're going instead of Florida when the winter comes.
decline deepened. In the third quarter, the heart of peak travel season, Canadian arrivals were down nearly 30% compared to the
Well,
year
that's a
before.
lot. I think that's a lot.
The weakness held across both land crossings and air travel, breaking the pattern of quick recoveries seen in the past. Canadians didn't stop traveling. Domestic and
there's
overseas
drama.
trips to other destinations continued to
Not
recover.
just to the US.
The pullback was specific to the United
Yeah.
States. As the year progressed, the impact spread beyond border regions. Major destinations that rely heavily on Canadian visitors, including New York, California, and Florida, began seeing fewer repeat trips and shorter stays.
That's bad
By
for
November,
them.
the pattern was no longer ambiguous. Canada didn't pause and then return. It pulled back early, and it stayed there.
Yeah, that's really
And
bad.
once that held through the year, it became the first clear sign of a broader pattern beyond North
It's a
America.
clear message.
Western Europe was expected to be a stabilizing force for U.S. travel in 2025. These are experienced travelers with a long history of visiting the United States.
I would assume so.
Instead, Germany finished the year with arrivals down in the double digits.
Well, that's not so bad, I
France
think.
and the Netherlands followed with significant declines and no meaningful recovery. Tourism visas fell. Total arrivals stayed below prior year levels.
Yeah, they just don't want to
And
apply.
unlike short-term disruptions, the pullback held as the year neared its end. What separated Western Europe from other regions wasn't affordability. It was confidence. Throughout 2025, stories about heightened border scrutiny, secondary inspections, and traveler detentions circulated widely in European media. They didn't stop travel entirely, but they changed the calculation. For discretionary overseas trips, uncertainty matters.
Yeah, of course.
Travelers didn't cancel vacations.
Yeah.
They redirected them. That redirection becomes clear when you look at the broader context. In 2025, global travel expanded. Many major destinations saw rising international arrivals. Against that backdrop, Western Europe's performance in the US stands out. Some markets, like the UK and Spain, didn't collapse. They were largely flat. But in a growth year, flat isn't neutral. It means falling behind.
Yeah. So
By the end of 2025, the expected European rebound never arrived. And for the US, that mattered, because these are some of its most consistent, high-value international visitors.
Not anymore.
What came next made the pattern even harder to dismiss, especially when you look north at how a different part of Europe responded.
Oh, it's Northern
Every
Europe?
major Northern European country sent fewer visitors to the United States in 2025 than the year before.
So everything's dropping. Everything's
Denmark
lower.
was the clearest example. By the end of the year, Danish arrivals were down by 23%.
See, this, I think, is an important
meaningful
number.
decline for a stable, high-travel country. Norway, Sweden, and Finland followed the same direction.
Although a little
Their
less.
declines were smaller but consistent,
Yeah.
and they held through the year. This wasn't a collapse, but it was visible, measurable, and sustained.
It's a pattern.
What makes Northern Europe important is who these travelers are. They are wealthy, frequent international travelers with plenty of options.
No,
And in 2025, they continue
the option is no longer the US though.
to travel, just less often to the United States.
Yeah.
This wasn't a cost-driven pullback. It was a quiet shift in travel preference. Throughout the year, travel advisories, widely reported detentions, and heightened political tension added friction to U.S. travel
Also
planning.
advising not to go
Not
there.
enough to stop travel entirely, but enough to change destination
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
At the same time, alternatives felt easier and more
Yeah.
predictable. Travel within Europe
Yeah,
grew.
you have other
Northern Europe
options.
absorbed demand. Asia rebounded. In that context, the United States didn't lose access. It lost relative appeal.
Yeah.
And when even stable, high-confidence countries begin pulling back, it reinforces the broader shift already visible elsewhere. At this point, you could argue the decline was limited to nearby countries, short trips, regional travel, places with easy alternatives. But long-haul travelers tell a different story.
Yeah, not always.
Travelers from Asia and Oceania typically plan far ahead,
Yeah, because
commit more time, and spend
Yeah.
more per trip.
Yeah, because they
These aren't
it's a
spontaneous
commitment
journeys. They're deliberate decisions.
Yeah. to
And
fly
in
out of there.
2025, fewer of those travelers chose the United States. From Australia and New Zealand, arrivals declined compared to the year before.
Wow.
Across much of Asia, the pattern was similar, with only a
Just
small number
everyone.
of exceptions, notably Japan and Taiwan.
Oh,
Most
really?
long-haul countries sent fewer visitors to the U.S. not
Okay, so
more.
they're the only ones still believing in the
This
US.
wasn't because long-haul travel slowed globally. It didn't.
No.
People were still flying across continents. They were still taking extended trips.
Yeah.
They were just choosing different destinations.
It's not to
That
this
matters
country.
because long-haul visitors play an outsized role in travel. They stay longer, spend more per visit,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
drive
yeah.
revenue well
Yeah,
beyond
yeah.
raw arrival counts.
Yeah, I get it.
So when this group softens, the impact is structural.
I can
not
see how
cosmetic.
it affects them.
By the end of 2025, the pattern was clear. The pullback wasn't limited to neighbors or short stays.
No.
Even travelers who usually come regardless were choosing differently. And that shift
Oh.
explains why the next story isn't just about arrivals. It's about spending. By the second half of 2025, one thing became harder to ignore.
People were spending less.
Even in places where visitor counts appeared to stabilize, the money wasn't following. Spending was falling faster than arrivals. That wasn't random. It was about who was missing. Short
Oh.
cross-border trips from Canada disappeared.
Yeah.
European visitors stayed fewer nights. And
Everyone's cutting
long-haul
back.
travelers, the ones who usually stay the longest and spend the most, showed up less often.
And those are the
When
whales.
that happens, revenue drops even if headcounts don't collapse.
Yeah, of course.
Some countries did send more travelers.
That's interesting to
Argentina
me.
is one example.
Oh,
Arrivals
really?
from Argentina rose by roughly 16%.
Well, that's a lot.
But those gains couldn't offset what was lost.
yeah, but
A modest
what was the
increase from a
attraction?
smaller long-haul country doesn't replace millions of short trips
Yeah,
from
of course.
Canada or extended stays from Europe and Asia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Volume matters, frequency matters, length of stay matters.
Everything matters.
This is why 2025 looked misleading on the surface. You could point to arrival numbers and argue the situation wasn't catastrophic. But spending told a different story.
well, ultimately,
Hotels felt it first.
I think ultimately that's where you're really seeing it because it's really the money that's getting in. So that's where you're really seeing if it was good or bad.
Shorter stays, lower per visit spend. Restaurants, attractions, and local
Yeah.
businesses felt it next. The issue wasn't just fewer visitors. It was fewer of the
Of the
visitors
sp-
who drive
that spend.
tourism revenue.
Yeah.
And once spending starts falling faster than arrivals, the impact stops being abstract.
Yeah. It's
It
gonna be
becomes
felt.
local. Which is why the effects showed up first in border states and gateway cities. The
Oh, yeah,
places
sure.
most exposed to
Yeah,
international
they're the
travel.
most used to this.
The impact of declining tourism doesn't stay on paper. It shows up in paychecks, storefronts, and daily life. In border towns, the effects arrived first and hardest. Communities built around routine cross-border travel saw traffic dry
Yeah.
up month after month.
Yeah, not anymore.
Fewer day trips meant fewer meals served, fewer hotel nights booked, and fewer shifts for
That's
workers
so
who depend on
sad.
steady visitor flow. For many small businesses, there was little margin for error. Reduced hours became common.
Yeah, especially if you're a small
Seasonal
business.
staff weren't rehired. Some family-run
Yeah.
shops and restaurants simply didn't make it through
Oh
the
no,
year.
that's so sad.
And the impact didn't stop at the border. Major destination states like Florida, New York, and California began feeling the strain as international travel softened. Fewer long stays meant fewer hotel nights. Lower per visitor spending rippled through restaurants, attractions, and local transportation.
It's every aspect of the
Tourism
economy,
agencies
basically.
warned of billions in lost economic activity
Yeah.
as international demand weakened. But behind those projections were real people: housekeepers, servers, tour guides, drivers,
Everyone
seeing fewer
with a job
hours
here.
and less income.
And hospitality,
This wasn't about
hospitality
politics or
industry.
policy debates. It was about livelihoods.
Yeah, it's about jobs and people.
When international tourism slows, the damage doesn't hit spreadsheets first.
yeah.
It hits communities. And by
The
the end of
workers.
2025, the consequences were no longer theoretical. They were visible, town by town, city by city, wherever tourism once filled the gaps. By the end of 2025, the decline was no longer just about flights or hotel bookings. It reflected something broader. Across multiple regions, confidence in the United States softened. Not overnight,
That's
not because
not,
of
not a
one
good
event,
word, not something you
but
want to
through a
hear.
steady accumulation of friction, tariffs, political tension, border scrutiny, and a growing sense of unpredictability. Public opinion data showed U.S. favorability falling across much of Europe, Canada, and parts of Asia.
All the parts that stop visiting.
Trust in U.S. leadership weakened in many of the same countries where travel declined.
Yeah.
These trends didn't stop people from traveling, but they changed how people felt about choosing the United States. And in travel, perception matters.
Yeah.
Tourism is discretionary. When confidence drops, travelers
Of
hesitate.
course, because it's not a
They choose
necessity.
destinations that feel easier, calmer, and more predictable. That's what makes the shift in
You want to
2025
have
so
a good
important.
vacation.
The United States is preparing to host major global events, including
Right,
the
the-
FIFA World Cup
the
in
World Cup.
2026.
Correct.
Events that rely on openness, goodwill, and global enthusiasm. If international sentiment continues to slide, the impact won't just be fewer tourists. It will be missed opportunity.
It's gonna be
on
a
the global
disaster.
stage. What 2025 confirmed is this: U.S. tourism didn't stumble because demand disappeared. It shifted because confidence changed.
Yeah.
And unless that confidence is rebuilt, the decline won't correct itself naturally.
Yeah.
That's the year-end verdict. If you felt this shift as a traveler, or seen it where you live, share your experience in the comments. Different perspectives matter here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about this because it is true that I think in the next, I think probably few months, there's going to be a lot of people traveling to the US because they have a lot of sporting events and stuff. Not that the US doesn't really have people traveling there, because obviously they do. But it's kind of crazy to think about this and this situation. It's obviously about sort of the political sort of thing and the political environment. But seeing that, and you can probably think about this and say, oh, it's bad for the economy. But seeing it like this is being reflected, as in, oh, you have actual numbers and actual statistics that actually prove this, and it is kind of a sad situation. I think, I like what they mentioned about how when you're talking about this big numbers, as in, oh, tourism fell, or I don't know, yeah, spending fell, and all of those things. You kind of tend to see the macro of it all, and it's just, oh yeah, this many billions or this many millions of dollars. But it's more about, it's really, I think, abstract, and you're not really seeing as in, oh, the results, as in people that, and people that just, again, they can be, they can be your neighbor, they can be your friend, they can be your cousin that works at a hotel. It's just you're really do seeing, I think, the effects in normal people and normal workers that actually do depend on this. And I think, it's kind of sad seeing it like this, because I think when you look at it where someone tells you, oh, the impact that it has had, throughout the economy or just throughout different industries. But it's really hard when you look at it like that, because I don't really think that you stop and think, what, how does this affect? Because it's just a number, but you're not really thinking about how this affects, the people, the mom and pop shop, or, the little diner that's in the middle of the road. So it's kind of, when you're seeing it like this, it's really, and those are the ones that are really feeling the impact. So it is super sad. I mean, I do believe that even though good for the countries in which this actually did increase and the tourism did increase, obviously they took an opportunity. The U.S. people are going less to the U.S. Of course, we're going to we're going to make the most out of it. And yes, absolutely great, incredible, good for them. However, I don't know. It's just I think maybe in the U.S. it's not gonna be. It's not. I don't know. Never bet against the U.S. Even though things were in tourism, it's bad and it fell and all of that. I don't think again we should count them out. It's more about well they had a bad year. The U.S. had a really bad year when it comes to tourism. However, I think maybe 2026 maybe because again they're going to have the World Cup. They're going to have other sporting events. I don't know if other sporting events are occurring in the same in the same year. But at least World Cup, that's going to be huge. And even though it's going to be a little, I don't know, as people are still, they're still going to go. They're not going to be deterred because it's so completely important that, even though I think apparently there are travel advisories, people are still going to go there. So I think I wouldn't just count and never bet against the U.S. just because it's really easy to change. The tide can change at any moment, at any second. And that's probably what's going to happen. That's what I would bet. Yeah, I think probably 2026 is going to be a better year. And even if it's not completely recovered, well, the good news is I think apparently 2025 was so incredibly bad that in comparison, there's no other way you're on the bottom. Really, the only road is up. You can only go up after hitting rock bottom. So, here's to hoping that you really do improve because I think when those policies are reversed and the policies and I think it was more about, again, sort of maybe the political climate or something. It's going to be easy. I think it's just, again, you need more confidence, I think, in the country, which apparently is really low right now. But that can change. And it's going to change, I have no doubt. And it's really going to be, again, there's going to be a road to recovery. Maybe this year wasn't the best. But, silver linings. 2026 is definitely going to be the year. That was it for today. And I'll see you next time. Bye.